Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Mike Kuntz. I'm a solution architect with Amazon Web Services. Up on stage with me, I have Mike Zaleski, Director of Emerging and Specialty Technology with SEPTA, and Tim Raybould, the CEO of TicketLeap. Today, we're going to talk about when the Pope came to Philly back in September. It was an interesting event. We're going to tell you the story about it. So we're going to go through, review the events leading up to the Pope's visit. We're going to talk about the technical problems that we faced and, excuse me, other ways that you can rethink and relook at these problems. Not every technical problem has a technical solution. Sometimes you just need to look at it a little bit differently. We're going to talk about AWS infrastructure event management, how leveraging partners can help out, and then the importance of load testing. I'm going to pass it over to Mike Zaleski here.
So a little bit of background on the event. Pope Francis is coming to Philadelphia. There are estimates for the number of people who are going to attend the events. There was a few events that were happening, and the numbers were placed up to about 1 million people. You can see from this map down here the security perimeter that was created. So this whole area in green, there's no vehicles allowed coming into the event. So you could have your vehicle at the event, but if you leave, you could not bring it back. All the area in yellow is obviously no cars. That's basically the center city or central business district. And then there was a whole fenced area for the actual events, the mass and the parade. To manage the traffic, we needed to issue only a certain number of tickets because we had limited capacity on our system. There's a slide of the kind of crowds that we saw. It's kind of hard to see, but on the left here you can see this is what the transit system looks like. This does not include any of the buses, which were not really operating through that walled garden. On the right is what the rail system looked like for the weekend. Basically, all these stops were all eliminated, and so we were selling tickets at only these particular stations to get into and out of the event. Again, with so much trains, so many cars, there's only so much capacity you could carry. If you got 1 million people trying to come into the city, you can't carry that many. You have to limit how many people can ride that system. So the first approach was to create a website to sell the tickets on demand. This was something that was thanks. The senior management approached the IT department, myself, and my boss, the CIO, and gave us a list of business requirements. They wanted to have a website that can sell tickets on demand without any kind of lottery, no queuing in the front end, no queuing in the back end. And the requirements were sort of based on this perception that these 300,000 tickets were going to sell over the course of a week, rather than a few minutes. So to meet those business requirements, we put together a Drupal-based website with multiple Drupal heads and SQL servers, or MySQL servers on the back end. Leading up to this 9 a.m. launch, the media had a field day, really building up the hype, saying, you got to get in, you got to buy your tickets, otherwise you're going to be out of luck and you're not going to see the Pope. So as you can imagine, there was quite the frenzy leading up to this. And 54,000 visits in the first minute. And within the first couple of hours, the site just folded over because it could not handle that load. Again, there was a major disconnect between what were the anticipated sales or duration of selling those tickets versus what actually happened. And here you can see our Twitter feed saying, yeah, we're temporarily down until we get this sorted out. Obviously, the internet responds. Yeah, check back next week. This thing keeps popping back.
Yeah, it's got a sticky key.
All right, so to go over that, the first architecture, we had series of MySQL servers, some Redis, and then multiple Drupal heads. And again, the business requirements did not allow any kind of queuing on the front end, like a deli style, here's your number, wait until we can, accommodate you, or queuing on the back end. Everything needed to be real time and instantaneous.
Let's skipped ahead a few.
Yeah, the presentation up front, what we have on the laptop isn't in sync, so we have to bump back and forth. Okay.
This is you.
Yeah. So when we look through and we talk about capacity and scaling, right? If you look over here in your traditional data center model, and I know this is a serverless architecture talk, but it really is important that we talk about how you do this with servers and how we started off with this project. This is your traditional forecast of demand, your 10%, 20% growth, or whatever you think the growth will be for your event. Blue line, it's the traditional data center model. There is there it is. 2 lines coming in. Red is what your actual demand is, and then the yellow line is the cloud computing, the elasticity. When you get this point right here, when you go beyond what your capacity and your demand is, that's an outage. That's kind of what we face, and that's what you always want to avoid. So how do we go through and scale? Well, we looked at the architecture, and the first thing we saw was the emails. There was email confirmation being sent out, and the limits weren't set up properly. So every time you would go to the website, hit submit, it would try to fire an email. Well, you were limited to 90 emails per minute, so that was like the first roadblock. We're like, oh, how did we miss that? Then we looked at the other scaling we could do. We took the SQL servers, MySQL servers, and we scaled them vertically, so we gave them more memory, more CPU. We scaled them horizontally. We gave them read replicas and failover. We did the same thing with Redis. We removed some bottlenecks in the logic, like I was talking about with the email, and some other bottlenecks in the code. Went through, did more load testing. We got to 900 transactions per second. Still wasn't there. We had gone through and seen 1,700 transactions per second in the first minute, so we needed to figure out a way to go through and fix this problem. We just had to completely rethink it, because it wasn't a matter of scaling. We were just looking at the problem the wrong way. Mike, you want to?
Right. So there was a move to a lottery-based system. And a lot of this had to do with, once that first site folded over, there's this, sort of backlash from upper management saying, all right, now we've got to find a way, this didn't work. We need to find a way to make it work. And so we reached out to multiple ticket agencies like Ticketmaster and a few of the others, Eventbrite, and they all pretty much said the same thing. Given your business requirements, there is no way we can do it. Thanks, but no thanks. And it wasn't until we approached TicketLeap, and they came in and said, hey, we can do this, but you need to rethink your strategy. So rather than doing this, bulk on demand, like sell them all in a flash flood, have a lottery system. You don't have the scalability, the performance issues you have, and then you also have added benefits as well in that, okay, a sort of more egalitarian way to, decide who gets those tickets rather than who has the fastest, who has the most bandwidth, who has the most horsepower in order to hit the site and buy all those tickets. It also reduces the number of scalpers as well. So, if you're a scalper, you might get lucky, you might not, as opposed to having a team of people who can buy up hundreds of tickets all in one shot.
Sorry, we're having a battery change up here. So one of the other things when we looked at it was, all these servers, trying to scale them out. Well, why not just get rid of all the servers? Werner Vogels had said at reInvent last year, the no server is easier to manage than no server. And that's what we did. We took a look, we brought in TicketLeap, and I'm going to hand this over to Tim now, if you want to talk about. Sure.
That button? Yeah. Okay. Hi. So TicketLeap, just to briefly describe what it is, if you're having an event, you can use TicketLeap to sell tickets to that event on the internet. It's a pretty simple concept. We have about, last year we did $120 million of ticket sales through the TicketLeap platform, and these events are mostly small events, and definitely not events of the scale that we're talking about here. The thing that I think we brought to that table when we first started talking to SEPTA about this was we knew enough to be appropriately scared about this problem. I think that's where we bridged the gap on where they were on it. They weren't appropriately scared by the problem. They got scared once it became an issue in the public eye, but I think that's what we brought to the conversation. And it seemed pretty obvious to us what the strategy should be, and we wanted to make sure we did not over-engineer the problem or the solution. So, I mean, as Mike alluded to, we just thought static HTML page, put it on S3, and that's going to give us our best chance of sustaining as much load as we possibly could. So that's what we did. We pitched to them, we're not going to sell these things in real time. That would be a disaster, and we have proof for that. Look at Twitter a couple weeks ago. We're not going to sell these things in real time. What we're going to do is a lottery system where there's going to be a static HTML page, and the people that want to get into the city during this time on trains, they're going to go to that page over a 24-hour period of time, and they're going to submit an entry to the lottery. And that entry, we were able to serve that page just as static HTML and in an S3 bucket. And the entries that people filled out when they completed the form on that page, the entries also went into another S3 bucket in the form of a JSON object. And it was very simple, and it was very we thought our best chance at working. I pulled up an email of what our test director sent to me like the night before we actually went live with it. She said, "Okay, I'm feeling pretty good now. I'm pretty sure the limits I'm hitting are on the stress test boxes themselves. Even with that, I can process 250,000 entries in 90 seconds. So if we did end up with 1.5 million entries, which is on the high end of SEPTA's guess, we could do that in 9 minutes." And then she said, a couple other things. But we tested it even far beyond what it needed to be tested. But it withstood it on game day too. It was a fun event for TicketLeap to be a part of. We did not use the TicketLeap platform that processes that $120 million in ticket sales last year. We didn't touch that at all for this. We became, for the first time in our history of our company, we became a consulting firm for a month. We stopped what we were doing on our core product, built this site and this lottery system entirely from scratch in a rush. It was fun to do, fun to be part of this local Philadelphia phenomenon. The news stopped by and talked to me. That was fun. It was good to be a part of it. A somewhat funny story on the day that we approached SEPTA, or that SEPTA approached us rather, after they got done talking to Ticketmaster and those kinds of people. It was a summer day, and it was pretty hot, and I was wearing shorts and T-shirts inside of TicketLeap. We were a pretty casual, laid-back environment inside the office. And SEPTA calls, and they pitch this problem to us, and they say, "Can you come over here and talk to us about this?" And SEPTA is a more formal, more professional organization than just shorts and T-shirts. So I went to a retailer, which I will not name names, you'll see why in a second, and bought an entire outfit on my way over there. I left my shorts and T-shirts in the bag with the front desk of SEPTA's building. I went upstairs. You don't know this. I went upstairs, met with the CIO and the CFO and some people at SEPTA who were really worried about this problem, and wearing shoes and belt and pants and shirt that I just bought an hour before that, and it all went fine. They made a sly remark at our tech guy's shorts. He was wearing shorts. We thought it was okay because he was the tech guy. I was the CEO, so they made a casual, funny remark about the tech guy's shorts. I was like, good thing I bought this outfit. Anyway, we left. We got, SEPTA decided to say yes. Go for it. And on the way back to TicketLeap, I returned the clothes. So that's why I didn't want to name the retailer. But yeah, I know. Anyway, I didn't really want to go through the slides, but
Yeah, no, that's good.
yeah, I guess I did. Back to Mike.
All right, yeah, thank you. So some of the things that we looked at from the architecture perspective, S3. So I like to refer to S3 as this glue service. If you're using AWS, you will use S3 at some point in time, and it kind of glues everything together. Where TicketLeap was able to take advantage of it was the scalability and elasticity of S3. S3 will regularly go through. It holds trillions of objects, and we'll see millions of hits per second on S3. It's just an enormous scale, and it made sense. static website up there, and it's just going to serve it. If you're going through and you're doing a large workload like TicketLeap was doing, there's a couple suggestions. First one, talk to us. We can help you go through. We've done this design. We've helped out customers. And also when you're putting files in there, the way you name them, it helps. So if you're getting the request where you're doing more 100 put requests per second or 300 gets per second, let us know. We'll help you out. Other things that we did here, Lambda, which is code as a service. So we, again, no servers involved in this. CloudFront, which is our CDN service. We cache those static web pages out on edge locations for everyone as they came through. SES, the simple email service. Fire off confirmation emails when you registered. SQS, it's a queuing service. We use that to decouple the messages. So when entries would come in and we needed to process the emails instead of where the first time we had it coupled the whole way through the process, a message would go into SQS that would be processed at some point, email confirmation would go out. The load testing that Tim talked about, they used the grinder, a C4 8X large instance, which, yeah, that's a huge instance. I think it's 36 cores and 60 gigs of RAM. Beefy box. Some great numbers. The one, we were talking about 1,700 transactions per second is where we capped out and when the site went down, 2,300 transactions per second. Felt pretty confident about it. Another thing that we went through and did, which you can't see the title because the projector's off a little bit, AWS Infrastructure Event Management. What you can do with infrastructure event management is go through any large-scale launch. AWS support will go through, and we have a team of people that are well-versed in these kind of launches. Can you hit the next slide? This is not working again. Thanks. And you've seen some of them. So when Shazam did their Super Bowl ad a couple years ago, and everybody went on Shazam, infrastructure event management team was a part of that. When the Mars rover landed, they helped with that, and now SEPTA as well. Special thanks to Eric Stoltez, who is an engineer on the AWS infrastructure support team. He was this guy that couldn't make it to the event, and he was there behind the covers just making this all work. So wanted to make sure we say thanks to him. So how did it go, right? That's the big question. The Pope was coming to town. It was a success. Went well. So that pretty much wraps up the seminar. We're going to stick around up here if anybody has questions, or did you guys want to do it up here or have them come? If anybody has any questions, Q&A that you'd like to ask, please, feel free. Yeah, go ahead.
Were you worried at all about a site becoming a target for hacking attacks or social protests? I know, like, for example, the city of Philadelphia has the DNC convention coming up too, right? So is there any vector and what are you doing on it? Because I believe that if something has to go on the site, it's a revenue loss, but also know that groups like Anonymous and such like that, or if you copy something, they're going to go after your site. Have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, that was definitely something that that we thought about. And one of the nice things about the lottery approach is that you don't have all those all that stuff stored in a MySQL database somewhere, and then it also allows you to go in and deduplicate any any multiple entries. And because it's not because it's serverless, you don't have that same sort of attack surface. I think the bigger focus at the time was you got to sell these tickets, and so you put your sort of traditional security measures in place. But from the time upper management approached the IT department to the launch date of that original site, I think was 6 weeks. So when you've got that tight a timeline, you sort of have to prioritize like where the performance, the security. So yeah, we did definitely do some security testing. So I think that was less of a concern rather than the traffic and the load.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit more about the timeline? We had 6 weeks to develop and deploy that first one. Then you had a problem and you needed more time. And then how much time between the successful rollout and the actual visit?
So that 6-week timeline was that initial conversation, and the original proposal was, we have a small e-commerce site that sells, model trains and Tommy toys and things like that. hours, keep it branded, keep it designed just so. And I think there was probably equal amount of time spent on UI look and feel as there was, I mean, that was happening synchronously, the actual development of the infrastructure. That site folded, and I think it was within a week. We had the lottery site up. And once that lottery window, as Tim mentioned, was open for a 24-hour period, so it's not this mad dash. You can wait till you get home and have dinner and put in your submission. And then it was about a week to process all of that and announce contact the winners. We still needed, I think it was 2 months.
For what?
Between when we drew the lotteries to do the actual ticket fulfillment. Because as you can imagine, people are coming from all over the world, and if you have an actual physical, golden ticket that you need to send to Vietnam, you need to have enough lead time in order to do the fulfillment.
Yeah, we did from declaring lottery winners to actually having them take the money online, the credit card transaction. I think that was a week or so.
Yeah.
And then that's when we passed it off to them entirely, and you guys did manual fulfillment of, I don't know how that was. A lot of people stuff in envelopes, I guess.
I think that was actually, part of that was done in-house, and then a lot of that was outsourced to a third party.
How many entries did you get for the lottery? The question was, how many entries did they get for the lottery?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Neither do I. How many tickets were sold?
It was about 350,000.
Yeah. It was just north of that. Most people that entered got it. It turned out.
Yeah, it was.
And there weren't a whole lot of duplicates or sort of fraudulent entries.
So there was one guy, I remember when we were looking at it, and we were talking, I was on a call that came up, and there was this one guy, and you could almost tell he was sitting at home, like typing on his computer, putting in multiple entries. And it said everywhere, like, you only get one entry, and there was enough space between it, and he spelled his last name one time.
Right.
It clearly looked like, some gentleman was sitting at home, like, typing in his computer, trying to get more submissions in, so there was some of that.
But yeah, like Tim said, pretty much everybody who entered the lottery got a ticket.
Go ahead.
So you were saying you have pretty tight timelines on delivering this. How did you find budget and procure sort of these different services out of your normal business model without breaking all sorts of internal contracting rules against that?
That's an interesting question.
Let me repeat, I don't think everybody, so the question was, how did they go and procure these additional services beyond what they may have already been contracted for?
Right. So we have a general IT services contract just to sort of backfill, on the human resources we don't have in our department. Once then we utilize them to build that first website. Once that crashes and you have the media saying, everything failed. I think that is enough, egg on your face that the sort of traditional procurement cycle, which, in a government agency or quasi-governmental can take a really long time. Something like that happens, it's emergency purchase order, and it just kind of, you still follow all the layers of sign-off. It's just they're all in the same room, like at the same time, signing that document.
And were you charging like a Ticketmaster service charge to cover those incremental costs, or were you eating those costs?
For the engagement with TicketLeap?
Just a one-time stand-up, throw it away web service.
Correct. Right.
Yeah, the way we priced it was, it's a public document, but the way we priced it was per ticket. Yeah.
And so did you pass that on to the person buying
No.
it, or is that an internal cost?
That was an internal invoice after the fact from TicketLeap to SEPTA.
Over there? Yeah, can we go pull the slides back up? They went dark. This one? Yeah. Oh, do you want to cover that?
Yeah. So this
the other services that we have listed up here were also involved in like after the fact. So the sending out the emails for confirmations, Lambda for some of the processing, CloudFront, which is a content distribution network. So those static files to basically put those out and cache them on edge locations to help speed up transfer times. And then Ajax on the client side. Anyone else have a question? You in the back?
How hard was it to sell the lottery concept internally?
At first, it was pretty much impossible because there was this vision of here's how we want it to work. Once that first site fell over, I think a combination of that and then talking to the sort of ticket agency experts, yeah, it wasn't a hard sell. I think everybody kind of got it like, oh, yeah, we need to change our approach because if all these people are rejecting us based on these requirements, obviously there's a problem with the requirements.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.